Sorry, this is good afternoon and welcome to this live interaction as a part of the cybersecurity and privacy course. This week is the week for risk management, and I noticed that your videos are already available, and along with, of course, the slides that have been used. And risk management is a very, very important topic as far as cyber security is concerned. It discusses the management perspective of cybersecurity, and in particular, the cybersecurity management is dependent on how well you are able to understand risk involved. Okay. So there are different approaches to assessing cyber risk or risk in general. And I follow your textbook, which is a very applied way of understanding or measuring, and then using the measure of risk as a basis to control risk. Okay, and the control mechanisms for risk are discussed after risk has been assessed. So you would become familiar with the risk management process, which starts with risk identification. Okay, the three phases, as you see, there is risk identification, risk assessment here meaning measurement, and then third is risk control. Okay, or how do you act on managing, controlling, or reducing your risk based on the measures that has come up. So, as we generally say in controls, that which you cannot measure, you cannot control. Okay, so the first step towards control is measurement. If you know using some objective measure what are the risks involved, then you can control it, you can act on it. So for example, your learning is something that we try to assess every week using an instrument called an assignment, okay, or a short examination. Okay, and you get some score on it. Okay, that score, of course, typically in a classroom come to the instructor and also go to the students. Okay, so using that measure, how you are performing. Okay, and if it's a low score, you come to understand that you need to put more effort, okay, to improve your scores. Okay, score in itself is not important, but learning is important. But your score reflects your learning. That's the general understanding. And if you're not learning well, there is some issue, okay, which you need to act on. Okay, it could be that you're not putting efforts, or it could be that you are not able to access your materials, or the teacher is not teaching well, or other issues. Okay, you are constrained on your time, whatever. So there is a problem which the score helps you act on the problem. Okay, so that is how risk management also work. You identify, assess, and then control. Okay, so that this is the sort of approach. Okay, and let me share one screen with you so that this. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Which is a PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here I have shown a formula. Okay. This is the final formula for calculating risk. Okay. It looks like an equation. Okay. Residual risk, which is equal to loss frequency into loss magnitude plus measurement uncertainty. Okay, and I have made a correction of the previous formula, which was given in the lecture. Okay, in the video lecture, you will see the formula that is given at the bottom. Okay, I've made a small correction to make it simple. Okay, so so this formula help us understand how risk is assessed. Okay, so risk is calculated primarily based on two factors. One is loss frequency, other is loss magnitude. Okay, so loss frequency, if you go back to your lessons, you will find that loss frequency is a measure that emerges from two probabilities. One is the probability, or here the term likelihood is used. Okay, there is a slight difference between likelihood and probability, but here I'm using it in a similar sense, but essentially meaning what is the probability of an attack. Okay, so therefore it recognizes that there are a lot of threats, okay, internal and external threats. Okay, each of these threats has a probability. They are not equal in terms of the likelihood of occurrence. Okay, so likelihood of something happening, okay, an attack happening, okay, that is something that has to be available as a data. Okay, and we also know that threat intelligence is something that is a very informed activity, and it requires expertise, oftentimes external expertise. Okay, so this data has to come from experts. Okay, threat intelligence expertise. So there is a probability which is about the likelihood of an attack, and there is also that probability is combined with or multiplied with, okay, the likelihood of success of that attack. Okay, likelihood of success of that attack. So likelihood of success it depends on vulnerability. Okay, so therefore for each threat there is a corresponding vulnerability. For example, you have already invested in people, process, technology to defend your system, to protect your systems, and therefore in certain cases, for certain attack, you may be completely prepared to defend yourself, and therefore the likelihood of success is very low. The likelihood of attack does exist, but the likelihood of success is very low because you already have defense mechanisms in place. So you multiply both the frequencies or both the probabilities, and that is known as loss frequency. Okay, what is the likelihood that there will be a successful attack? That is what loss frequency is. So it's a probability. Okay, and then there is loss magnitude. Loss magnitude talks about impact. Okay, if an attack happens, what is your exposure? Okay, how much loss? What is the probability of loss? Okay, or sorry, what is the loss? Okay, what is exactly is the loss? Or that is again in the video you can see, or in the lecture you can see, you have objective measure of impact. Okay, it can be in a scale of say 0 to 100, or it could be in any objective measurement scale that the impact, okay, is assessed, and then you have impact. But if an equipment is attacked, sometimes it is not the whole equipment that gets affected. It could be part. Okay, that a part of that equipment or a server or a system may be down, and therefore you call it exposure. What percentage of a particular asset is exposed? Okay, that is what loss magnitude is. So when you multiply probability with impact, okay, then you get a risk, a measure of risk. Okay, loss frequency into loss magnitude is nothing but probability into impact. Okay, so a general formula for risk is probability of occurrence into impact if it occurs. Okay, so that is calculated in a more detailed way in cybersecurity risk assessment using two measures known as loss frequency and loss magnitude. Okay, but when you do this measurement, we recognize that the measurement always has error. Okay, because these measurements are not very objective measurements. These are also measurements which are perceptual. For example, the probability maybe the judgment of an expert. Okay, so there could be judgment error. Okay, even the magnitude or exposure, etc., are also oftentimes perceptual measures, and therefore there is likelihood of error. And that is the reason why we add a another factor or another item to this residual risk measurement known as measurement uncertainty. Okay, measurement uncertainty is added because you want to amplify the risk. You want to go with the worst case, and therefore you're saying your measurement, there may be measurement error and it may not be measured accurately. So I want to add one more factor to sort of step it up to show risk as higher than what is measured, because there is uncertainty. And next, in the next slide, you must be seeing a example, and that example illustrate how risk measurement in practice is done using this formula. Okay, and that gives you a sense of how to also factor in measurement uncertainty. Okay, and I have revised the formula here to remove the confusion of one item in the previous formula. Even in your new edition of the textbook, they have removed this minus the percentage of risk mitigated by current controls. Okay, so well, this formula is very fine-grained. If you add that, for example, after the assessment has been done, if there are extra measures taken to reduce risk, okay, then you are trying to subtract that from the formula. Okay, so that your final measure of residual risk will be very accurate. But so you can see in the class when it is going on, there is a confusion about this term. Okay, so let's assume that the assessment of loss frequency and loss magnitude are done when certain controls are set in place, and after these measures have been taken, there is no additional measure, okay, that is taken to further minimize risk. Okay, and with that assumption, we remove this item from the formula and make it more simple and straightforward. So and also in the example that we discussed, we can see that there is no such factor coming in. Okay, so for all practical purposes, the formula for residual risk can be treated as loss frequency into loss magnitude plus measurement uncertainty. Okay, so I just wanted to add this as one lesson, because there is some confusion coming up because of this factor in the formula, and it is not well understood, and even the textbook has made a correction on it. Okay, I think this is pretty clear. Let me check the chat box if there are some questions coming in. Okay. Week 7. So somebody has asked, sir, week 7 assignment and the interaction lectures with the industry person has no one-to-one correspondence. Well, the industry invited lecture was conducted in the classroom, and students do ask questions, and they also participate, and the video captures the whole of it. Okay, and therefore I did not understand what you're saying. If you want to reframe your question, what is your specific concern, Aisha, you can put that up in the chat box again. Okay, and let me stop sharing and then also look at some of the specific questions that has come up in the discussion forum compiled by Binod. Okay, I have posted reading materials, before I forget, for the next this week and the next 2 weeks, that is week 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so essentially you will see that you have to read chapter 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the textbook. Okay. So what I want to caution you is text chapter 6 to 8. Okay. So you may have questions from chapter 6 to 8 during this coming weeks, okay, particularly week 7 and week 8. Chapter 6 is, of course, risk management, that is the current week, and 7 and 8 will be covered in the lectures of the subsequent week. So why I 6, 7, and 8. Okay, sorry. Chapter 5 is for risk management. Sorry. 6, 7, and 8 are covered for lectures 7 and 8. Okay, let me say that again. There are 3 chapters included for 2 weeks, which is week 7 and week 8. And therefore, please read that. And you may also see that there will be some overlaps in terms of concepts among these 3 chapters. And therefore, it is always good to read all the 3 chapters in advance. Okay. And when you answer your assignments, okay, you may find some overlaps. Okay. And then you may start questioning us, saying that, well, this was not included in the specific chapter, but it belonged to the previous week or subsequent week, etc. Because the reason is many of these concepts actually flow on certain topics. Okay, so unless you know the previous one, you cannot go to the next one, and hence read them together and be prepared that a question from chapter 6 or chapter 7 may be there in week 7, okay, or a chapter 8 may be partially contained in the lecture of week 7, and so we may ask those questions. Okay, so please read 6 to 8 together, okay, so that in your assignments you will not have a problem. Okay, although I separated these chapters for different weeks, that is a sort of approximation. Okay, you need all the 3 chapters to understand cybersecurity technologies. Okay, and so the discussion is about cybersecurity technologies. So I especially for this is from the perspective of the assignments. Okay. Okay, so let me go to some of the recurring questions that is coming up. That is, you have questions about what happens if I miss an assignment, what qualifies me for the final examination, would I be not able to give exam? So these, again, I say these are issues related to the platform and its rules, which are already mentioned in the announcement. Please go and read the announcement very well. What is the minimum requirement for qualifying to give the final examination? Please read in the announcement, which is already there. Okay, and if I miss one assignment, can I give the next assignment? Yes, you can. Okay, but about the final examination, please read the announcement. Okay. 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 Somebody asked, this is a practice-based course or only theory course? I want to clarify it again. This is a theory course. There is no laboratory exercise that is involved in this course. Okay, there is no lab, there is no experiment or anything of that kind. It is done in lecture mode and using reading materials, and therefore it's a theory course. Okay. So textbook has already been discussed many times. What is the textbook? And it's available in the announcement also. Please look at that and buy your textbook from, you can buy online from Flipkart or Amazon. This hardly cost about 300 or 400 rupees. Please do that. Without that, you cannot give exams or really understand concepts. A lot more than what is covered in the lectures are covered in the textbook. A lot more in the sense they are complementary. Okay. I am in 3rd year engineering student. Can I apply for an examination and also get certificate of this course? I already said this is a postgraduate course, and I discourage undergraduate students from taking this course, but nothing prevents you from attending the lectures. But I discourage students from getting certified because it's a PG course, and you are in UG. Okay, based on that logic. But if you are interested, nothing prevents you actually from taking the course. Okay, and you're already taking the course. And of course, there are a couple of issues with week 3 assignment and week 5 assignment. Week 3 is being reevaluated and it must be done already, I believe. Week 5, participants have spotted one issue, which is with question number 3, and we have gone through it thoroughly, and we understand there is incomplete options given. You are right, and actually we are dropping that question because of that issue, because some have taken it, some have not taken it, etc., to remove that sort of a confusion, and we will not consider question number 3 in the evaluation. Okay, and thank you for spotting this and reporting this. Let me look at the chat box if there are other questions. How to get job after this course? Okay, I do not know. You have to actually look at employment opportunities. And this is a course that, of course, you can add to your CV. And you need to have, of course, knowledge if you get a call for an interview. And, of course, respond to questions. Okay. This is not job training, but of course, it helps you with your career. No, question number, somebody says question number 2 is also wrong in solution. No, nobody has complained it, but we have, of course, vetted this question each week's question paper, and very unlikely that there is any other error. Of course, there can be errors. We can, of course, check that again, but very unlikely. Okay, is there any other technical question? Any question that is related to the course or contents? I will be more than happy to clarify. Please read the textbook thoroughly, chapter 5, which is for this week on risk management, and get your concepts clear in terms of how risk assessment is done. Okay, and that will help you in different job functions, because it also gives you a sense of what is generally risk. Okay, you will see that there is a template called TVA, right? The TVA worksheet, which is about asset and vulnerable asset and asset-wise threat. Okay, threat on the vertical axis, assets on the horizontal axis, and then you have vulnerability for each combination of asset and threats. Okay, assets and threats. Okay, threat works against asset. So asset is the unit. Okay, and that is one unit, and threat is another unit, and then you assess vulnerability for each combination. Okay, and of course, when you sort and do it, it actually comes in the ascending order. Okay, and it is for each vulnerability that you try to understand what is the likelihood, okay, of success of attack. Okay, it is based on vulnerabilities. Okay, so it becomes extremely clear to you when you go through this lesson on risk assessment. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, I will close here and have a great happy week. And I look forward to seeing you next week. All right, thank you, and see you next week. Okay, thank you. We'll close it here. Okay, there are questions coming up about question 2 of week 5. Since you raising this concern. We will definitely check this and get back. Okay, thank you. Okay, see you next week. Thank you.